has to have the knowledge and the experience, then that simple clay pot is going to get made. So if the making of a clock or a clay pot requires all of these things, then this amazing universe must require those things also. So it means there had to be a maker of the universe. If a clay pot cannot come into existence randomly, a simple clay pot, how can we expect that this whole universe came into existence randomly? Through some random smashing together of electrons and particles, this whole unlimited universe with infinite galaxies, everything regulated, moving different speeds, different directions, spinning, and everything coordinated. All of this happening, and it all happened randomly, but a simple clock can't make itself, or a simple pot can't come into being out of random chance. Yet we say, oh yeah, the universe just happened without any maker. So this kind of thing can be used to infer the existence of God. No, there must be someone who is in charge of making this universe. That's God. So this, we didn't see it happen, so we don't have pratyaksh praman, but we can infer that it must be so. We can also infer by thinking, you see, here in this world, there are different sizes of things. Size-wise, like a mustard seed, a grapefruit, a mountain, the sky, the endless space. There must be something even bigger than that. What would that be? Well, that would be God. Just like there's a little bit of knowledge or intelligence, a lot of intelligence, extreme amount of intelligence, well, there must be some unlimited supreme power. There must be some unlimited supreme knowledge. Yes, that would be God. So we can infer in this way. And we also have Shabda Praman when it comes to God, because we have many, many saints who have practically seen God face to face. So they tell us about God's existence. Now, the question is, why can't we have Pratyaksh Praman of God right now? We're supposed to have faith, right? God says in his Vedas, Asti tyevopalabdhavyas tattva bhavena chobhayo. Asti tyevopalabdhasya tattva bhava prasidati. Kathopanishad. If you have perfect faith in God, then God is right there in front of you. In other words, the moment your faith is complete, you get pratyaksh praman. He's right there. So someone might say, well, God, wouldn't it help me have faith if you showed yourself to me first? Why are you saying have faith, then I'll show myself to you? Why don't you show yourself to me first, then I'll have faith in you? Doesn't that make sense? But actually, we can't see God. We can't get that pratyaksh praman because one simple reason. God is divine, and our senses, mind, intellect, everything is material. See, there's two fields. There's the divine field and the material field. So science is relegated or limited to this material field. The material sciences, any branch of them, none of them relates to God. They all relate to discovery within this material field. And even within this material field, science always remains incomplete. Ask any scientist, ask the greatest scientists in the world, is your field of science complete? Have you reached the end? They all say, the more we discover, the more we realize there is to discover. The farther we push out the frontier of science, the more we realize that there's so much more beyond. We feel like little kids staring up at the night sky. So science, even within the material field, is always incomplete, imperfect. What to say of accessing the divine field? When material science can't even perfect the knowledge of the material field, how can it have access to the divine field? It's like, see, even within this material field, you can't see with your ears, right? You have to see with your eyes, hear with your ears. So again, that's within the material field. So if you can't hear with your eyes, you have to see with your eyes. You have that limitation. Then how can you see a divine thing when you have material eyes? You have to see material things with your material eyes, hear material things with your material ears, taste material things with your material sense of taste, but we can't experience or observe anything divine with material senses. So a simple explanation for why we right now, from where we sit, we can't have pratyaksh praman of God's existence. Our scriptures, see, that was logically. Now look at the evidence from our scriptures. Indriyebhyah parahyartha arthebhyascha param manah manasastu para buddhir buddhir atma mahan parah mahatah paramavyaktam avyaktat purushah purushan naparam kinchit sa kashtha sa paragati. Kathopanishad says that our material senses are the most gross, most limited thing. More subtle than our senses are the objects of the senses. More subtle than that is our man, our emotional mind. More subtle than that is our buddhi, our intellectual mind. Beyond that, and more subtle, is our soul. And beyond the soul is the cosmic power Maya, and beyond Maya is God. Now with our senses, we can't even know our own man or buddhi, because they're beyond the senses. Let alone knowing our own soul, or knowing the extent of Maya, or knowing God. Sa para kashtha sa paragati purushan naparam kinchit. There's nothing beyond God. He's the absolute limit. Everything else is under Him. So it means God can know God, and God can know everything else under Him. God, Maya, soul, buddhi, our intellect. So our intellect can know the things under it, not the things beyond it. So our intellect cannot even know our own soul, let alone knowing God. And our senses are even under that. Our senses, with our eyes, can we perceive our own intellect? No. It's more subtle than our senses. So science is based on the ability to observe. Either observe with your raw senses, or we multiply or augment our ability to observe through telescopes, microscopes, various testing techniques. But it's all about observing through the five senses with the help of certain technologies. If we can't observe it, we can't prove it. We have to be able to observe it in order to get pratyaksh praman. So there's no question of getting any observational data about God with material senses. He's absolutely beyond our material senses. He's divine. Think of it another way. Yan manasa na manute yena hurmano matam tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate ityadi kenopanishad. God is the one giving life to our senses. He gives life to our soul, which gives life to our mind, which gives life to our senses and body. So when He's the one illuminating our senses, how could our senses illuminate Him? Means in order to be able to grasp God with our senses or with our mind, God would have to be under our senses and mind. But He's beyond, absolutely beyond. It would be like this power bulb challenging the powerhouse. No, there's no way. The powerhouse is giving life to that power bulb. The bulb in no way could challenge the powerhouse that I can know you. The bulb's very existence is dependent upon the powerhouse. So like that, God is enlivening our senses, but our senses can't know God. God is enlivening our mind, but our mind is material and limited and dependent on God. Therefore, our mind cannot know God on its own. With our own limited intellect, if we try to know God with our own material intellect, it's like someone going out on an ocean which is bottomless. It has no end to its depth. It goes down and down and down forever. You go out on a boat on the ocean and you have a meter stick, a 3-foot long ruler, a yardstick, and you go out and you plunge that into the water, and then you hold up and say to everybody, the ocean is 3 feet deep. See, I just measured it. And someone else has a 10-foot pole. So he submerges that, and he says, no, don't listen to this guy, he's wrong. It's not 3 feet deep, it's 10 feet deep. See? This whole pole went in. Someone else has a 100-foot pole. No, don't listen to either of these guys. No, all 3 of them are wrong. The ocean is limitless. So those people are not describing the depth of the ocean, they're describing the length of their measuring stick. Similarly, we can try to know God with our mind, but we're not knowing God. We're only getting to the limit of our own imagination. We're only getting to the limit of our own intellectual ability. We're not reaching up to God. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa sah Taittiriya Upanishad. However far out the mind goes, it has to return without having reached God. Go char jahan lagi man jai, so sab maya jane hu bhai. Ram says to his brother Lakshman, know that wherever the human mind can go is all Maya. Remember I told you yesterday, Maya is one of the 3 existences. God is beyond Maya. He is omnipresent in the world. He's omnipresent in Maya, but technically speaking, he's beyond Maya. So no Mayic thing can touch him or affect him or reach him or know him. We are under the 3 gunas of Maya. Jnana gira gotita aj Maya guna gopar. Ramayana. God is beyond sattva raj tam of Maya, and we're under it. Our intellect, our senses, they're themselves made of sattva raj tam. They're made of Maya. So how can they know God who is beyond Maya? The same rules that we discover here, rules of the universe, laws of science which we discover, they don't apply to God. They don't apply to the divine world. This is another reason we can't know God through science. For instance, we know that a person exists at one place at one time. I cannot say I am here and in India at the same time. I'm in one place at one time. But God is everywhere at once. Even if he's seen at one place, like when Krishna descends on the earth, and he's seen crawling in the courtyard of Nanda Baba. Even then, he is still omnipresent. So it's completely contrary to material laws that we're used to. Our mind is used to operating in this field where those laws of nature apply. But God has a special power called Yogamaya, which is described as Aghatita Ghatana Patiyasi. That power which can make all the impossible things possible. So whatever we deem impossible is possible for God. There's no limitations on God.